It's always been my mind to watch this movie, and right now seemed like the perfect time because its remake, Lal Singh Chadda, is going to release in theaters soon. So I thought, why not have a look at the original? So I watched the movie Forrest Gump. It's a 1994 movie directed by Robert Zemeckis, and this is my first time watching it. And after watching it, I learned that this is based off of a 1986 novel of the same name by Winston Groom. The interesting aspect about that is that it's not entirely a one-on-one adaptation because there are few things that are in the novel which are not there in the movie. It's pretty much well known that this is not a one-on-one adaptation of the novel because it's not a complete representation or adaptation from the novel to the thing, because some creative liberties were taken, which I don't mind because I enjoyed the movie nonetheless. This movie is definitely deserving of the masterpiece or legendary category because I really enjoyed this film. Able to find the balance in his performance, like he really nailed the balance of it, because had he went full retard or had he been a little bit extra, I don't think the movie would have worked as well as it did, because everything was as perfect and as real to life as it could have been. Especially with child actors, that was more of my issue because he couldn't direct child actors well, but in fact he actually did it really, really well. What I loved most about it is how they managed to interweave the American history, which I don't know in very much detail, but I can pick apart a little bit here and there, like a few things that happened in America. So I loved how they incorporated that into this fictitious story and incorporated Forrest Gump into that, which does make me curious about how they're going to do the same thing with India, because the last time they did that we got Bharat, and I don't really care much about that. So it's really interesting how Amir Khan's version is going to, showcase Indian history with that. So I'm really intrigued. That's the one aspect I love in this film. I especially love the characters, except maybe the one played by Jenny, the one playing the character of Jenny. I mean, Robin Wright as the adult Jenny and Hannah Hall as the young Jenny. I have mixed feelings because there were some aspects which I did like and which I could connect with and feel sympathy for, and there are other aspects which I just hated about that character, like especially the way she treats Gump. Like, you could understand where she's coming from, but at the same time it was frustrating to see Forrest being treated like that because that's how real they made it. So it was a big, overall I can say that her character was more confusing for me, because in the end I was way more confused, like, should I feel sympathy for this character? Because I do, especially when that thing happens at the end to her character. It did feel I did feel emotional at the end, in spite of what she did. That made me angry. So I guess it's par for the course, I guess. But it was something that did confuse me. But whereas the others, I was really enjoyed their characters. Everyone did their job really, really well. Some of the most notable characters will be Sally Field as Mrs. Gump. I especially love her character and how she incorporates morality and how she advises her son. Felt very natural, and I could immediately get into it. Especially the opening scene alone is more than enough for you to care about her, and when tragedy strikes on her character, you do feel emotional. And there are several dark scenes in this movie, which was very unexpected for me because this is my first time. So it was very shocking to see such dark moments in what was originally, like in the trailer, it felt more like a wholesome family film, but there are darker elements, so be careful of that when you're watching this with family, because there are some dark scenes. Who are my favorite supporting cast. I love these characters, especially Baba. It's amazing how this movie got me to care about someone who only talks about shrimp. He only talks about shrimp from his introduction to near his end of the scene. He only talks about shrimp and how he wants to own a shrimping business with Gump. And it's amazing how this movie made me care for such a character. And Lieutenant Dan, I love what he had to go through. He has an overall arc in the story, and I especially love this was not just Forrest Gump's journey, although he is the main focus of the movie. There are several characters in the movie that go through their own arcs as well, some with the help of Forrest Gump. I especially enjoyed that, and Lieutenant Dan is the perfect example of that. So I really enjoyed several of the character arcs that this movie portrays. It's really a well-made film that I would really recommend anyone who haven't seen Forrest Gump to really watch it, and hopefully before watching Lal Singh Chadda, because it's a really emotional film that is the perfect balance between comedy, the dark stuff, and I could think of several scenes in this movie where I could feel like, if it was a Bollywood movie, they would put up a song there. So yeah, it's a very enjoyable film. It's a really emotional film, and if you watch it, immediately you're gonna get immersed in it. The world is like so good, and the movie captivates you from the beginning scene itself. The only thing on my mind at the time was like, why was he telling his story to random strangers? But then I think that scene is open to interpretation, like as to why he's just telling random people. Like there are 4 random strangers that come and go as the movie progresses, just to listen to the story. And then once the story comes to the present, the most surprising thing for me was Haley Joel Osment as Forrest Gump and Jenny's son. That is so unexpected for me to learn that this was his debut feature film. That is so awesome, man. If you don't know, I think he was the same kid in Sixth Sense, and yeah, I think it was The Sixth Sense. He's the brother of Emily Osment, and for this to be his feature film, and I didn't even like. Wow, I had that doubt. Was this Haley Joel Osment? And I looked it up on IMDb, and turns out I was right. So this is his debut film, apparently. I do recommend you watch it, and the movie isn't really that long, so I never really wanted that movie to end. I wanted it to keep going and show me more and more. This is one of those very rare times that I was saddened by the fact that this movie ended, even though it had to end at some point, right? So I loved it, and I hope you would too. It's highly recommended you watch this.
It's been a while since I fell in love, but after last time, don't wanna mess things up. You're so beautiful, and I can't deny. My heart is always with you, my head's always stuck in time. Love, let me go, 'cause I've been holding on for far too long.